Welcome to No Options with Ty Gibson, the show where life's toughest trials become the foundation for your greatest triumphs. Real stories, raw conversations, and the unwavering belief that you were built to overcome. Now, here's your host, Ty Gibson.
Hey guys, I am fired up today. I am super excited today to not only have an amazing guest, but I got to tell y'all. In fact, I was just telling him I watched Brandon Puffer, and Brandon was he's been a Major League Baseball player. He was drafted by back in the day, and I'm just going through all this. I'm going, oh my gosh, man! I sat and watched Brandon when he was in the minor leagues and at the Round Rock Express, and it's just such a cool thing to be able to talk to Brandon today, because again, I'm a huge baseball guy, and Brandon, first of all, thank you for being on today.
Yes, sir, Ty. I'm looking forward to it. I'm thrilled to be here, and I'm hoping we can encourage some folks.
Absolutely. Brandon was a former Major League Baseball pitcher. I mean, he's a speaker. He's a baseball coach now, which I think is amazing. Author, and more importantly, just going out and being able to help people like you just said, Brandon. I mean, if we can help somebody, and that's what we're here today to do, man. I want to talk a little bit about your amazing story. And man, I just want to start out by, growing up in California, correct? California boy, right?
Yes, sir.
And man, as a kid, I feel like we all want to be a baseball, we're all going to be a pro baseball player, right? But you actually made that dream come true. And so tell us a little bit about that walk growing up, and then kind of get us to where you became drafted, and then tell us your story if you don't mind.
No, absolutely, Ty. Yeah, I mean, I was right there with you, bud. That was kind of my dream from very early on. I had a little brother. My dad coached our baseball teams and our basketball team. We did a little bit of everything. And, but yeah, we fell in love with the game of baseball. And, I think early on, probably maybe 10, 11, 12, I started, realizing that maybe I had a gift at it, and God had given me some talents and things like that. And so it just became even more fun. And then, we just did a lot of everything. But at the end of the day, getting into high school, I was that kid, Ty, that grew really fast. So when you look at the team photo, it's like boom, and then me and the other guys, like I'm the same size I am now at 12. And so I loved basketball. I thought, man, maybe I'll go to the NBA. Who knows? And
you never know,
football, right? And all that good stuff. But then in high school, it became pretty clear that baseball would probably be a path that could potentially take me, at least a little bit further than high school, hopefully. And some scouts were popping around, and, it was way different than it is now, right? No social media or showcases. It was just like you might get a letter from the Toronto Blue Jays, and they said, I was at your game, and we're going to keep watching you. And it was really cool. And yeah. I mean, when I say letter, I mean an envelope in the mail. And so, yeah, man, it wasn't as, probably as stressful maybe. It was just like, okay, this is cool. And then, senior year of high school, the June draft rolled around, and I was still in school, actually in class, and the Minnesota Twins drafted me. And to be honest, I wasn't really a school guy. And I just thought, what, if I get an opportunity, I'm going to go for it. And yeah, I signed with Minnesota, graduated about a week later, and took off to Florida for rookie ball from California. Here I was on my own, thinking I was hot stuff as a pro ball player, and long journey after that. But that's how it all kind of got started. And my dad
That's
really
awesome.
did. Yeah, mom and dad were just so supportive of our athletics and everything we did. And so it really fostered a good, positive environment.
So tell me, you said you went to Florida as a rookie ball, and I'm trying to think back, man, when I graduated high school, I can't imagine,
Man.
Just taking off and going, oh my gosh, I mean, here I am in another state and playing playing this ball. How big, from a baseball standpoint, how big of a step was it from going out of high school to that next level? Was that just a crazy step?
From a baseball standpoint, it was a wild time. It wasn't as daunting as I thought, right? And so when they signed me and they were courting you and all that stuff, I received the pamphlet from the Twins, and they showed their high A ball, the Fort Myers Miracle Friday night game with 4th of July fireworks. It was packed like the Dell Diamond in here in Round Rock would be.
Yeah.
And so you're thinking, oh my goodness, and when you show up to rookie ball out of high school, you're on the side fields games are at noon. Unless somebody has family in town or a girlfriend, no one's there. And so pretty quickly, now the talent level was amazing. And I did grow up in a hotbed, an area where I got to see some good talent. So I wasn't blown out of the water. I was certainly in awe when I saw guys from other countries taking infield and just their acumen and how smooth. And so there was certainly an eye opener, but it was more about the mental side of it. And as you said, being 18, and we haven't got into it yet, but I had a lot of hurts and habits and hangups that came with me. And so I just mentally and the maturity level was nowhere near ready. And the thing about that was is you just had a lot of downtime. And so at the field, I was comfortable, man. That's where I went and hung out with my buddies and played the game and competed. And then it was all the stuff afterwards where all of a sudden you're at home by 2 o'clock and you're like, I got nothing else to do till tomorrow. And my goodness, nobody's really breathing down my neck. And I mean, shoot, we didn't even have cell phones or anything. And my parents were good parents. They were fairly strict, but in a good way. And, faith was a big part of our household. And so here I was out at 18. To be honest, I like to explain it like the enemy. The devil was going, oh man, this is a good setup. So yeah, it was more managing my time off the field that was overwhelming than the actual baseball stuff.
Well, that makes sense because you think about it. I mean, you got, you know what to do here. It's what you're not used to is what you do when you got home.
That's right.
Because that would probably be the same for me. I mean, I had so much structure at home, but if I didn't, but yeah, wow. I mean, because you don't think about that. We, as kids too, we think about these baseball players and we see them as, we saw you guys on the big stages, right? But we never made it. You don't realize what those steps were behind to get to that big stage. And there's a lot of steps. If you don't mind, tell us a little bit about that journey from A-ball up to kind of where you went and what was that like?
Yeah. Well, first off, I'd just like to say it was long and I would say arduous, but also amazing, like absolutely incredible. So I definitely took the long road. And when you sign out of high school, unless you're a big bonus baby who, first rounder, which I wasn't, I was in the 27th round, not a whole lot invested in me. So it was kind of like, hey, here's an opportunity. Let's see if it works out. And if not, we haven't really invested much. So I went off to rookie ball at 18 to Fort Myers, Florida, did 2 years in rookie ball with the Twins, got released, which in world terms is I got fired. Yeah. And they just said, hey, man, you're not good enough. But it was more, again, I wasn't really making good choices off the field. I wasn't, kind of with this gift that God gave me, I wasn't doing what I was supposed to be doing. And I knew that. I was raised in the right way. I was making poor choices. And so they released me. And I thought, hey, that's it. I guess this whole thing's over with, right? And my mom will say that's the first time she saw how I could be very determined because as a local scout, I said, hey, what do I do? And he goes, well, I mean, it happens. And you can try to look for some contacts and see if you can sign a free agent deal. So I got in the phone book and I just started hustling. I'll come pitch anywhere, I'll throw. And the Anaheim Angels, who are right down the street, their big league stadium, said, hey, we'll let you throw a bullpen and see. And they signed me. They liked what they saw enough to sign me. And so, man, 2 years there and then 2 years with the Reds. And all this time, I'm in A-ball. I'm so far away. And I'm just average on the field and I'm below average off the field. And I'm just kind of keeping my head above water, right? And so fast forward in 1998, 4 or 5 years into this thing, I'm in A-ball with the Charleston Alley Cats in Charleston, West Virginia. And that's the other cool part. All these small towns you go through.
Yeah, I
it's really neat, man. The bus rides and the whole deal, right? And so, man, about that time, a pitching coach came up to me and said, hey, I was in batting practice. My arm was really sore. I was flipping balls in to the bucket, as we call it, in the outfield. And I was a traditional right-handed pitcher up here. And again, pretty average, honestly. And he came out to me and his name is Andre Rabone. I'll never forget it. We're still in contact. And he said, hey, Puff, have you ever thought about dropping your arm angle like a sidearm pitcher? Right. And I said, no, because I was throwing like that because I was sore. I said, no, man, honestly, my arm just really hurts. I can't throw. And he said, well, between you and me, one of my buddies had just got released the week before, fired. And he said, it really came down to you and him. And that would have been my third release at the age of 25, just not on the fast track at all.
Yeah.
And so I said, yeah, I'm open to that. And we made the change and things really clicked pretty quick. They really did. I went from being about to be released A-ball guy with very average numbers to I got a double-A call-up just because some staff came in and said, that's a different look. And let's see how that plays at double-A. And I did well. I stayed. That off-season, I know I'm being long-winded. Cut it any time.
Okay. No, this is great,
man. Okay. And I came home, and the coolest thing that ever happened to me was I gave my life to Christ at Saddleback Church where my mom worked. And now I got a new arm angle, a new lease on life. I had sobriety for the first time. So I'm taking care of myself. My body's feeling good. I'm healthy. And I really, my career really took off from there. I went back. So we're now in 99 and went back as a sidearm guy, had a good year. 2001 is when you saw me in Double A with the Round Rock Express. So yeah, just hitting all these stops, but actually moving, like actually having some success. And again, part of it's the arm angle. The biggest part of it is the confidence that I had every night going, hey, I'm prepared. I've worked out. I've got my sleep. My nutrition's right. I'm not hungover or whatever, I'm not out at night. And so all that kind of culminated into a run of a few years that, I got my first call up in 2002 with the Astros. So from 94 to, I would say to 98 or 9, slow moving, slow cook, slow boil. And then some changes and boom, here it is. I'm there. And so, that was kind of the journey to my first call up. And there'd be a lot of up and down after that as well. And of course, some life stuff that would go on. I wish that first time around, God got a hold of me enough for me to go, man. But I did have 5 years sober before, kind of fell off the wagon there.
Well, and before you go into that, and I want to, just for the audience, we all, Brandon, you and I are talking about this before we jumped on it. We all deal with things, right? We all make choices, and there's nobody. And gosh, I've made them today that I'm going, shoot, I wish I'd have did this or that. There's just things that we do every day, and some have bigger consequences, some don't, right? But what I'm saying is there's always something that we're always trying to get over. And whether it be, and we talked about our business stuff, whether it be some personal things, whether it be our marriages or whatever that looks like, we're all dealing with things. And and that's what's so amazing to me is we can, as we just talked about, you taking this run with, to the major league, this baseball dream. And as we know, behind the scenes, it's brutal. It's hard. It's personally hard. But you got to a point where there was you ran into some adversity all through that run. But then this is where we get to where you talked about, in our faith, man, we can't talk about our faith enough. I'd love just to have a whole topic of that, but we could, but the thing is in your case, you got to a point where there was some decisions that made some really tough things happening in your world. Yeah. So, and I want to talk about that because I want people to realize we all have, Brandon is a good night, man. You're just the poster child to me for people that just go, man, when you can have it all and then just make the wrong choice, but it's not over, right? It's not over. God's got a plan, and so I'm so excited to want you to talk about this, but I wanted to kind of tee it up a little bit because all of that great things, and then you had this is where the world kind of shifted a little bit for you. Yeah. So dive in there, Brandon, if you will.
Let's do it, Ty. And so, it's so fun to talk about the game, and we could do it all day, and we could talk faith and redemption, and all that is very fun to talk about, right? But I think we'd be very remiss if we didn't get into the hard stuff.
Sure.
If we're here to encourage people, we got to get into the dirty stuff, the hard stuff. And so I'll back up a little bit. In my childhood, I had some, real adverse traumas that happened that, again, at the time, it was just, you just kind of push these things down and deal with them, some sexual abuse. My father was awesome man, but he was an alcoholic and had anger issues and things of that nature. So I watched a lot of stuff, as did a lot of people. And now we have a choice. How do we deal with that? And for me, I just didn't. I didn't deal with it. And I didn't know it would show up in my life for the rest of my life unless I did deal with it. And so I carried a lot of those hurts and habits and hangups with me. I had a God-shaped hole inside of me that I was trying to fill with everything but God. Alcohol, drugs, performance on the field, promiscuity, whatever it was all, as we know, just empty. And I just kept trying to fill it, and it wasn't there. And so I did, as I alluded to in 98, give my life to Christ. But I would say I said the prayer, I did the thing, but I kind of white-knuckled it. I didn't surrender my life and live in that surrendered mode all the time. It was more or less like, I got fire insurance, I'm going to heaven. God bless me in my career and my family, and you know what I mean. And so what happens there for me, Ty, is until you hit a really adverse moment or situation in your life, you really don't know how grounded your faith are. Like, are you really grounded in the rock? Are we on that shifting stand? And I realized after 5 years of sobriety, I got in a separation with my first wife, and I was off in the big leagues doing the stuff. And to that point, I was not going out. I was not making bad choices, but I also wasn't super surrendered. So fast forward through that, 2004, again, 5 years sober, career's going great. have some kiddos by now, the family, the whole deal, right? I've got it all. And I was in spring training 2004 at the Padres and got separated from my wife. We were having some issues, and I just, gosh, the enemy's so patient. He was so patient, and he said, those little things in my head started saying, you know what, you've been sober 5 years, but you were young back then. You're more mature now. You were in the big leagues. You got, you look at all these things that you're exposed, at your fingertips, right? And so the first thing I did, Ty, is I went that very day I'm talking about, spring training, Peoria, Arizona, and I bought a 6-pack of beer, and I sat in the hot tub. Oh man, I just need to relax. Got a lot going on back home. Nothing really happened, right? And then the next day, that same voice was going, see, all your buddies, you've been telling them you can't go out because you're a Christian and you don't drink, and your dad went through this already. Go out with your boys. And I just said, yeah, I can handle that now. And man, from that point forward, Ty, it was a really slippery slope. I dove right back in as if I had never stopped. And all the things of the world that we don't have to glorify, but you can only guess, all that God shape, all that stuff was there. And so still in my career, but just, man, making those choices. And what's worse, Ty, is before, when you know better, but you're making choices. But once you've given your life to the Lord and you know his goodness and you know what he's done for you, and now you're back out there making choices, that's a really hard place to be. And he's a gentleman. He's going to, hey, I will give you over to yourself. I'm right here. I haven't moved. And I just kept running from him. And my career really started to go downhill, as you would imagine, just, again, because I wasn't taking care of myself. I wasn't making good choices, which leads to a lack of confidence when you're competing and all the rest. So I would go back and forth in the big leagues with the Padres and the Red Sox and got the World Series ring and didn't satiate me, didn't give me that peace and joy I was looking for. And then was up in 05 with the Giants, back and forth. 6, and I'm getting to the night we're talking about. 6, I was back in Round Rock, AAA, the Ryan family. It's just such a beautiful baseball atmosphere. They knew I was having some issues. They said, hey, maybe if you can get you closer to home, and wonderful experience. But it's still kind of just 1 foot in, 1 foot out. And at this point in time, I'm really trying to get back on the rails. But I let that foothold in, and it was really hard. I was battling myself every night. So 07, Texas Rangers call me, and I'm about 14 years into this thing by now. And they said, hey, you're kind of on the downswing, but and if you've seen Bull Durham, they said, we've got a bunch of young prospects here in AA, 18, 19-year-olds, and I'm almost 30 by now, and you've had a little cup of coffee, you've tasted the big leagues, and can you come down and mentor these guys and be the Crash Davis of these guys? And man, it was awesome. It was such a fun role. And they were grooming me to be a coach. And I was, Derek Holland, Elvis Andrews, Chris Davis, and all these big stars that would become big stars. And I was just the old guy mentoring them, being, hey, showing them how to be a professional, which is ironic because of where we go here.
Yeah.
And, those guys would ask me all the time, Ty, like, hey, come out with us, Puff. And, we heard you used to be a whole lot of fun and all that. And I'm like, yeah, fun, but man, I don't have an off switch. And I knew that. But what I would do is live a double life. And I would go out on my own and make poor choices and then show up at as the FCA leader of our team, the chapel leader, all the things, man. And you can do that. You can put on that face and you can be that. But at the end of the day, when you look yourself in the mirror, there's no worse feeling than knowing that you're a hypocrite and you're a fake and you're not living the way you're supposed to be living, not only for my boys on the team, but my family and my children and, all the things. So fast forwarding, I just want to kind of paint that picture.
Sure.
We're in 2008. This is my second year in that role with the Rangers. At the very end of the season, we're in a championship run. We have a day off the next day. It's a Friday in September. And I'm a very detail-oriented guy. I'm very routine, as a lot of ball players are, right? Like in Round Rock, if I went to the bathroom and they had that bullpen up there and someone moved my chair 1 inch, which they would do because they like to mess with me, I'd say, who moved my chair? It's that kind of thing. Like same deal, same timing, same. And so I was driving into the field in Frisco, Texas. We're in a championship run. And man, I had this feeling, this voice say, hey, go out with the guys tonight. Man, you haven't had fun with these guys. You've been mentoring, being the old guy all year. Go show them a good time. And the enemy again was just right there, man. He was, and I got, this is where I really want to slow down, Ty, and encourage people who have been through this or going through this, facing something that you're feeling like is not right and it's heading in the wrong direction, but you're too scared to speak up and you don't want people to judge you. And maybe I'm the only one, and that happened to me because a still small voice inside said, don't do it. That's a really bad decision. I'm like, it'll be fine. And right after that, I felt like I heard, matter of fact, when you get into the field today, you need to go to your coaching staff and tell them you need help. You're going down a dark path. I mean, it was that serious. And I just, no, my first thought, Ty, was, I'm the older guy. I'm a veteran. That's selfish. We're in a championship run. I'm home in a week. Let's go have one night and, man, we'll get this thing together when I get home. Well, not listening to that voice would cost me dearly. I went, played that game. The very next night, went out with the guys that night, The very next morning, I woke up. I didn't remember the night. I had blacked out, and I was in an orange jumpsuit, and I was in jail surrounded by a bunch of others. I had committed a crime. My clubhouse manager, Brandon Boyd, came to bail me out. And I said, Boyder, we call him Boyd. I said, what's going on? Like, what's up, man? Like, what's going on? And he said, look, here's all your paperwork, but you called me last night and said you were here, and I don't remember that call. And he said, I thought you were joking, because I'm kind of a jokester. And he said, but I came just in case, and here we are. And so, honestly, at that point, Ty, I went the next day. We had day off, went the following day, finished out the series, didn't say a word to anybody. Just one of those things. Oh, man, we'll get this swept under the rug. It's, I got to get home. And no, it wasn't like that. This was different. This was, no, you have made a choice that you are going to have consequences for. I didn't know at the time what they might be. So long story short, the next week, the media relations guy from my team called me and said, hey, Puff, how's your off season going back here in Round Rock where we live? And he said, hey, did you get in some trouble down here, up here, towards the end of the season? And I said, yeah, but how do you know about that? And he said, well, a pretty big syndicate called me to ask about it. And if they called me to ask about it, they're going to run some stories. And, what's done in the dark, Ty, we know is going to be illuminated in the light. And that was my moment of, what, the gig is up. And I texted my family and said, I'm very sorry, but I made some dumb choices and some stuff's coming out, and still didn't really grasp the whole thing. Maybe just denial, but I was out on bond for about 9 months. The charges were burglary of a habitation with intent to commit sexual assault, which is just awful to even say out of my mouth still to this day. Mm-hmm. What had happened was I went, and because of the way I was living and what I thought was normal, what was so base and vile. I had knocked on the door of a lady that lived in the apartment complex where I live. So we'd been partying and thought, sure, she'd want to see me in the middle of the night, just the state I was in, and no answer clearly. And I walked into an unlocked door and I went and I tried to get in bed with this lady. And again, saying that just hurts every time I do, but it's important to know that's how low I got. And that's where this mindset got me. And so fortunately nothing happened. I shouldn't say nothing. That's not right. Nothing physically happened, but she woke up scared, and that part's so hard for me to say because I have daughters and wife. But I took that sense of security away from someone. And so, yeah, man, the first time I Googled myself at that point, I just put my head in the sand and was like, oh, we'll get through this. And I Googled myself, Ty, and the headline was, former Houston Astros pitcher faces 5 to 99 years in prison. And that was the first time I just went, oh my goodness, this wasn't just a little mistake. You were out drinking with the boy. No. So I ended up going to a jury trial. Had guys like Nolan Ryan, Jackie Moore, our old manager, came as character witnesses, which is so honoring and so humbling, but also so embarrassing. Like, these guys have better things to do than come to a courthouse and speak on my behalf. Ended up getting the 5 years in prison sentence. They came out, put me in handcuffs after a 3-day trial and said, we sentence you to 5 years in Texas Department of Criminal Justice, which is big boy prison. Mm-hmm. And I said, can I go say bye to my dad? And they said, no, we own you now. And I'll stop right here and let you kind of interject. I went to the side cell. It took all my belongings. It took everything from me. My mind started feeling 5 years, and I started doing the birthdays on my children. First thing I did, how old are my children going to be? They're back home with my parents praying for probation. I won't go to prison. Well, here I'm going for 5 years. And then the second thing was I heard the bars kind of clank, and I just surrendered. I mean, it was just a surrender moment of like, God, this is where I've gotten me. Like, this is where my faking it and thinking I'm a Christian and doing all these things, this is where it got me. And so and my prayer to that point was, please keep me out of prison and I'll be a good boy. I'm being honest. It was. Right. Not this time. It was, you know what? Whatever you got to do in me, wherever I go, like, just I'm yours, And so obviously he walked every moment. I ended up doing 3.5, almost 4 years on that sentence. He walked every moment of it with me. And then we can get into some of the redemption stuff. But that's kind of the rock bottom. And it was a big one.
Well, you brought up a point, though, that sometimes we just got to get ready, because every one of us sometimes are walking these steps, saying we're in our mind, we're doing the right things, but are we really doing the right thing? Right? Are we doing the things that we should be doing? But one of the things, Brandon, that you mentioned was just, you talked about truly just, that I guess knowing what's right, I guess is what you're saying is, and I don't know how to describe it, but in your mind, you know you were doing the wrong things, right? But you just kept getting this pull of our, you know, to going, hey, let's just go out with the guys. And we do that. We all go through that. That is nothing, that's nothing new for you, right? I mean, that's something we all deal with. We all have some form of that all the time. And but I want people to realize that one thing that you thought you was just going to quote unquote sweep under the rug, right, was not ever that case. But we also have some that maybe aren't that, as that doesn't have that type of penalty to it, but we still wear it and we feel it, and we don't think we can get through it.
Yes.
And I always say, it doesn't matter how big that wall is that's in front of us, or how deep that ditch is in front of us. We can get through it. And what's amazing is on the other side of those adversities, and I can't say it any better because it's your life. You've lived it. On the other side of these things are some amazing things, and from my story, I always talk about it because, I went through my first transplant. I had a 50-50 shot of the survival of this transplant. And I left a 6-year-old daughter that night, right? And I always said I had to go through it because I wanted to be there for her. But I didn't know what I was coming back to. You know what I'm saying? I did, and it was truly in God's hands. It's just, and that was the same thing. It sounded like when those gates closed, right? You just said, "Hey, it's in your hands. I'm just completely surrendering." But my thinking there is that there's so many times where we think we know what's going to happen. We think we're in control and we think we've got this plan, and it's really not us, right? I mean, you've talked about that. It's not us. It's not us. It's not our plan. But I will tell you, on the other side of this, though, and I'm going to get you. This is where I'm going to tee you up for that, because on the other side of that, I was able to get through the surgery. I was able to, be there for her. That 6-year-old, I was able to walk her down the aisle about 6 months ago. So there's some really cool things. And on your story, that was tough. I can't imagine, being in Texas prisons for 3.5, 4 years.
Yeah.
And that's a whole nother story. I'm sure you could talk to, but on the other side of that, man, you had kids and family, but you're doing some amazing things today. I mean, you're speaking, you're an author of a book, you're teaching young kids now the game and coaching them. And I want people to realize it's not over when we make decisions that don't go our way, or things we know were the wrong decisions.
Yeah.
And I just want you to talk about that, because tell us a little bit, now that you got through that, what are some of the things that you've learned, right? You've learned through that now you're developing and helping others through that with your teachings of what you.
Yeah, the fun stuff. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Let's get back.
Yeah. So, to your point, Ty, that doing time in prison is awful. We've seen the movie. It's not good. But the worst part of it for me is the missing your family. Like, it's not about you, right? Like, it all comes down to choices and consequences. And why I am where I am now is all God's grace, but also making different choices. And we'll talk about that. And I made choices that landed me where I landed, and that was on me. But guess who was also a victim? The lady I mentioned, but my family, my mom, my dad, my kiddos, who their dad went away in pivotal times in their lives. That's the hard part, is what you do to others with your choices, right? And so it's not all about us. The other people are affected, and that's something I want to, with No Options listeners, I want to say, look, if you think I'm just making my choices and I can do what I want, it's not all about us. And so that was very hurtful. And I'll tell you this story, and then I'll get all into the redemption, because this sets it up pretty well, is my 2 little girls, Ashlyn and Morgan, my precious daughters, man. I got to walk Morgan down the aisle about a year ago, and oh my goodness. Anyway, before that, though, when I went to prison, their mom went back home, which she needed to. She needed the support, and the phone systems are very expensive. And so they couldn't set up the phone. My son was with my parents, and I got to talk to him a little bit and keep in touch. I didn't hear the voice of my daughters for 2.5 years, and I didn't see them the entire time for 4. And when I say Morgan and I were inseparable, Ty, I mean, maybe you remember from the games. She did not leave my side ever. So at all. And Ashton was a baby. And so the story I always tell everybody, and then I set up the redemption stuff, is it doesn't get much lower than after 2.5 years of my time in prison, their mom finally did get the phone set up. And again, I'm not throwing shade at her. I totally understood it. But it got set up. And here was the day I was going to get this big phone call with my daughters, man. And I was, man, beside myself. And Morgan gets on the phone and, hey, princess, hey, babe, I love you. I miss you so much. And it's like we never skipped a beat. And she goes, hey, Ashlyn, come here. You want to talk to daddy? And Ashlyn's 2.5, 3. And she said, and I heard it loud as clear as day. She said, Morgan, that's not my daddy. That's your daddy. And the gut punch of all gut punches, Ty. And Ashlyn and Morgan, I tell them when I come on podcast, I'll probably text Ashlyn and go, I just told our story. She's 18, moving her into WVU college in about 3 weeks. We're as close as you could possibly be from, that's not my daddy, Morgan. That's your daddy. I'm getting chills, man. To, that's my girl, man. That's my baby. And I'm moving her into college. And I got to walk Morgan down the aisle. And how did we get there? From that to this, how did we get there? And the lessons in it for me were, we've really got to own our stuff, man. We've really got to own our mistakes. Yep. Now, if I go through my time there going, oh, and it happens a lot in there. I didn't do anything. I shouldn't be here. Or if I walked out and my parents picked me up at the gates in Huntsville, Texas, I had nothing, Ty. Like I started over from scratch. And people were, oh, you played in the big leagues. It's like, not for very long. And everything I had financially was used to try to stay out of prison, or my obligations and responsibilities while I was in prison. So literally came out zero. I walked out with an onion sack with a Bible and some hygiene, clothes that didn't fit me, that the prison gave me. My parents still make fun of me. And like, here we go. And so if I walked out that day, Ty, and I said, here I am, world. Remember me? I was a big shot. I played ball, and everybody, life just went on without me, Ty. It goes on without us. That's so right. there was a lot of humility. Like I did this to myself. I need to earn this back. Nobody's going to roll this red carpet out and go, oh, he's back. No. So I had to really just take humble steps. I had to own my mistakes. And a very humbling part of the story, and it's really cool, it'll hit home to you because you've been there, is the first job I got. So you have to have a whole parole plan. And some really great people from the area allowed me to come stay at their house. The Pearson, there were so many people that made this thing happen because my family's not in Texas. And I had to parole out to Texas. And just some things that were like, oh my gosh, like people just have such hearts, and so, but the next thing was I needed a job, and on paper, I'm not very good anymore. And so Reed and Reese Ryan, they said, hey, Puff, what do you need, man? We know you're getting out. What do you need? And I said, well, really, I need a job. And they said, come see us. So I went and got to Reese's office, and Reed's, big hugs. We're talking about catching up. And they said, well, we only have one thing, and it's a maintenance job. I said, man, I can't fix anything. If my wife can hear me right now, she can attest, like, man, if something goes wrong, she's the handyman. And so they said, well, listen, it'll be fine. You've got a supervisor here named Corey Woods. He's a big Red Sox fan. He's got the wicked accent. He can show you everything. So we did, man. I said, let's go. And there were times in that I was happy as could be. And my guilt and shame, I thought, man, I'll never be a part of baseball anymore. I blew it. I don't deserve that. And man, here I am at a baseball stadium. All right, God, what are you up to? Man, like I'm over here pressure washing and painting and all day doing manual labor at the field. But man, I'm at a baseball field. Like this is cool. And gosh, so humility. I had to be faithful in what they gave me and what doors were open. You can't just walk out and go, look, whoever, maybe you didn't do prison time, but you blew it on your job. And you can't just walk back and go, all right, start me out where I was. And they're like, hold on now. Hold on, Chief. And so, man, I just was faithful in that and what God gave me. And I'll never forget this too, because, when you've made a mistake like I made, guilt and shame will wear on you really hard. And it's really tough. And the enemy will remind you what you did and not who you are or whose you are. And so I'll never forget George King, the general manager at the time, walking out to me, checking on me. I was painting a fence, and he was like, hey, Puff, how's it going out here? And I said, oh, man, I'm living the dream. I got my praise music in. I'm painting. I'm just so happy to be free. And he said, well, some people called into the front office. And they want a pitching lesson. And we thought, hey, would you want to do it? I did that before I went in. I was really good with kids and pitching lessons, and I loved it. But that guilt and shame popped up immediately and said, well, George, they know who I am. They know what I did, and he said, Puff, it's good. It's okay. Like life, you got to move forward. Yeah. And so I did the lesson. It went fine. They wanted some more. I did them back there at the Dell Diamond, and those picked up a little. And that gave me the confidence to go, people can look past this. If you're making different choices, if you're being humble, if you're walking it out. So those gave me some courage and some, okay, man, maybe I can be effective again. And the Express, they promoted me to baseball outreach coordinator. And I was up in the office with the air conditioning and the fancy clothes. And
Wow.
man, I'm, with my background, Ty, that's all God. And them having faith in me, I didn't deserve that role. And from that role, I branched out and started my own GPS. You remember, was a youth travel ball select program, and people showed faith in us, and then me, and man, so here we are. We're sitting here today, and as I'm saying, it's blowing my mind. From in prison, no contact with your girls, baseball is never going to happen again, buddy. You screwed that up. To just surrendering everything, just being faithful. It didn't happen overnight. It's been 15 so years, but here I am. We joined forces with the Texas 12, a very well-respected organization in Texas. GPS was God provides strength. Texas 12 is named after the 12 apostles, 12 ordinary men changing the world. They accepted me with who I am and past, everything, just like God would. And here we are, man. We're mentoring kids and coaching and walking Morgan down the aisle and moving Ashlyn into college and all these things. And when I was in that dark place that I didn't think were possible, I really didn't. I was like, no, there's no life after this, man. Not this, in these pits. And God did it. I know that. But as a teaching moment for our listeners, like, man, whatever it is, and the chances are not too many people listening today went that far. They didn't get that far away. Maybe, but
you never know, right? Yeah.
Never know. But wherever you ended up, however far you've gone off the road, and I'll do a cheap little GPS comparison here. Let's go GPS in the car, right? You get off that road like I did, and you're just a couple degrees off. And what's it going to do? It's going to reroute you. But you have the choice to just keep going, man. I get as lost as I want to go, and I can hit some rocky roads and bang up my car, and it's going to take me a long time to get there. Or I can reroute and get back on the track, which was God's plan for my life all along. He always had this purpose for me. I just didn't know it. I was like Jonah, just trying to run away from him. And so it's like, yeah, man, no matter where you're at, listener, like I went really far, and that's a shame to share. But look what God did. And so if he did it for me, he can do it for you. You just got to make that choice to repent, move from that behavior. That's all that means. Change your behavior, go the other way. Humility, and own your stuff. And man, you can walk this out. There's victory on the other side of this thing.
No, that's awesome, man. I love hearing that. You're talking the language, man. And I tell you, that fires me up because it's so true. I mean, it's so true. It's up to us, right? I mean, it's up to us just to like we talk about, we surrender and just be willing to listen.
Yes, sir.
But man, that's an amazing story. And I tell you, I love the energy you bring behind it too, because I mean, and so many of us, we love the baseball story behind it and all that, but that's a life story. There's so many of those stories right there that are happening. Like you said, they just kind of fade away, right? Where did Brandon go? And the life goes on,
Yes,
but
sir.
and it can happen, like you said, so fast.
Yes.
And so I just encourage people, in Brandon's case, you had that voice of maybe talking to the staff. When you have that, please, we've got to wrap our arms around each other, man. This world's hard enough. And when you need help, and in your case, you took that one more night that was really the deciding factor, right? But if you could have reached your arm out to help, and that's what I'm encouraging everybody to do, man, just reach out, because we're here to help each other, and that's what we're supposed to be doing.
Yes. And Ty, that's such a great point. And I could have saved myself and my family and so many people so much heartache. And we are here where we are, and we're making the most of it. But if you could change that part, the hurt for people, you would. And so here's the other thing. The enemy wants us to keep all this stuff in and think thoughts like, well, what would they think of me if they knew I was doing this? And I'm just so bad. No one's going to understand this. And what happens, Ty, is you raise your hand and go, hey, man, I'm struggling. I need help.
Absolutely.
Go,
And that's okay.
Me too. Like it gives everyone else permission, and now we're just helping each other. And it loses so much of that power when you just get it out. And again, I'm not saying you got to go on a podcast and air out all your dirty laundry like I do, but tell someone you trust.
Yeah, that's right.
Just get it out.
And that's so true. I mean, just to talk to someone, because a lot of times you talking to someone may help them as much as it's just, we've got to be able to reach out, because everybody we want to help, right? And we're all going through something, and we may be going through the very similar things that we can help each other, right?
Yes.
But man, I tell you, Brandon, what an amazing story. So what what are some of the things that I know you do public speaking, and what are some of the other things that you're doing as far as public speaking? What is that, and what is your? Tell us how to find a book, and tell us all
Sure.
the things you've done and how we can support what you're doing.
I appreciate that. Yeah. So, in terms of the book, from the bullpen to the state pen,
I
and
love
I
that.
came up with that. It's pretty clear
What a
what it's
great
about.
name! What a great name!
Yes, sir. That book is on Amazon, and it's just out there to try to encourage people, and it goes a little more in depth on my story. So, but overall, CoachPuffPositive.com is my website. It's Coach Puff, the word positive.com, and so that has links to the book. I have some Coach Puff Positive merch, just trying to get positive, stuff out there, and then also the speaking engagements. I do get opportunities to go anywhere from keynote speak for companies to churches, to share my story in prisons, to all kinds of things I get an opportunity to go do on this side of this, just again to try to encourage folks, as you spoke about. You're a businessman, you come to the business world, it's like there's a lot of parallels to life's choices and perseverance and all the things that helped me as a ball player, but helped me get through that really hard time, and then coming out of that. And so I think it's great. I get opportunities to go do that and share my story. But yeah, man, all my socials are on there. It's all CoachPuffPositive.com, and any of my socials are Coach Puff Positive. So yeah, there's ways to reach me on there.
Well, man, I'll tell you, I'm a big fan, and I'm excited, and I hope you guys will go out there and support, you know, the mission that Brandon's working on, and get some of this gear, get some of this. Let's get. I mean, I know it's good. He's always got good gear, so we got to look. I'm gonna have to go look at some of that, but support him, because I mean, it again, we can support each other. It's okay to that we're all going through different things, but man, I've got to ask another. I'm gonna pull back around to baseball. So
Yeah.
you and I were talking a little bit before on you played with some amazing players, even on that round. We talked about that old Round Rock team back in '01. Is that correct?
2001 was the second year they were around. Yes, sir.
Yeah, and I know you don't like to take a lot of the credit, but man, you guys had one of the best pitching staffs, I think, and to go back in the day, and you were on that team, and you were very much a part of that, and but there were some big names that came out of that team. But who would you say was, I know as a player, but what was the most impressive player that you were ever around as a major league?
Oh, man. Gosh.
And I'm not saying so much as, and maybe I should rephrase that, not just as a player, but as a person. What would you, as a person, what would
That's
you
an
be?
important caveat.
Yeah. That changes, probably changed a whole lot there.
It really does. It actually does. I've played with some incredible Hall of Famers. I played with Barry Bonds. I think is probably the best hitter we've ever seen. No shade on Barry. I don't even understand what it was like to be under his pressure. I could never, but when we add the caveat of who affected me most in terms of just how they handled it, it's not easy. We just spoke about it. There's not woe is these big leaguers making all this money playing the game they love, but there's a lot of pressure. There's a lot of stuff that goes into that. And so, man, names that pop in my head are Lance Berkman. Lance and I are still in contact. He's a wonderful man. He was a phenomenal ball player, but kept his family first, kept his faith at the forefront. Trevor Hoffman, closer with the Padres. Man, that guy just treated us all like we were, it doesn't matter if you're day one or 15 years or whatever. He included you in everything. Billy Wagner. Gosh, Billy, Hall of Fame closer.
Hall of Famer, yeah.
Hey, it was most of the guys are just regular guys, right? We know that. But you got to have that caliber who cared enough to really take you under his wing and teach. And again, we're still in contact, and he's encouraging me to this day, man. And I could go on and on. There are a lot of really, really
That's
good
awesome.
human beings in the big leagues. There really are. I mean, guys that when you get to know him, you're like, just a regular dude.
That's right.
And those ones really jump out.
Yeah, well, that's neat. Yeah, I just, as a baseball guy, I thought that would be a neat question.
Yeah.
But I want to, first of all, I just want to say thank you, and because there's a lot, there's a lot of ways you could have taken this, right? You could have taken it and dug and went down in a hole and really, and still it wouldn't, still would have affected your families and the people and it's not that takes that away. But what you've done is you've come back now, and you're coming back to help, and we just admit who we are. We all make mistakes, but I just want to thank you for getting out and telling your story, and podcasts, all this stuff, right? Willing to be on these podcasts because you are making a huge difference. And I personally want to say thank you for sharing your story.
Thank you, Ty. I appreciate you having me. And without the support of my family and faith and just all that stuff, I mean, if it was left to me, Ty, it'd be just like it was in the past, man. Just not a lot of good. So anything good that's coming out of this is just God's redemption story.
Amen to that. So, well, man, again, Brandon, thank you for being on. And guys, if you need, please go support Brandon and what he's doing. And if you've got, businesses and business owners that are looking for some great motivational speakers and that just want to hear an amazing story, because Brandon's your guy. And I just want to encourage people to follow Brandon and what he's doing, because he's doing some amazing things out there. Have a great day, guys. And Brandon, thank you again. Appreciate you.
It's been a lot of fun. Thank you.
Hey guys, thanks so much for listening to No Options. If this episode spoke to you, please take a moment and leave a review. And more importantly, please share it with someone who may need to hear it. You can find more stories, resources, and ways to connect over at my website, tygibson.com. And that is Gibson with a P, TYGIPSON.com. Remember, no matter where you are, your story isn't over yet if you live like you have no options. I'll see you next time.
You know Ty Gibson is an entrepreneur, a relentless survivor. Did you know he's also a powerhouse speaker? After overcoming 3 transplants of juvenile diabetes, he built thriving businesses with one mantra: no options. Ty transforms adversity into action. His keynotes ignite audiences with real-world resilience and 30-plus years of sales mastery. Are you ready to inspire your team? Book Ty Gibson today as your next speaker. You can call 512-944-4780 or head over to tygibson.com. That's Gibson with a P. It's time for your event to share the motivation that is no options.